Everyone for giving us some time this morning to really talk to you through the SolidFire Agile Infrastructure approach and really how you can really stand up clouds and go from just a concept to a true cloud in under 90 minutes. I'm actually joined by one of our senior architects, Gabe Chapman, who will be assisting me with some of the topics and slides. So we've made this as entertainable as it possibly could be, as well as informational. So before we really get started, the gist of this particular topic is really drawn by a few things. Over the last few years, the movement and transformation of IT from a series of basically those verticals and silos into a more horizontal operational environment has really affected the way customers look to buy infrastructures that are involved in that type of solution. Really what it comes down to is the days of selling storage to the storage team and servers to the server team are really starting to wane, and customers are looking for an infrastructure that's easy to stand up. And what that means is that there's less risk involved with going with this particular route and having to reinvent the wheel, and it really gives a better operational unit and an overall better experience for the customer. So with that, the discussion points we're really going to cover is giving you guys a little bit of overview as to some of the background as to why we're doing this, some of the particular use cases, some of the market trends that are starting to affect what this technology is all about, and why people are actually coming to us and talking about this and asking us, how do we solve this particular problem? We'll also talk about SolidFire's abilities for those of you who are unfamiliar with SolidFire. If you are, I do apologize. You should know about us by now. We're so awesome. Sorry, a little pun there, but just to get you laughing this morning. Then we'll talk about the Agile Infrastructure approach, then going to zero to cloud, and really how easy it is, and based off of all of the work that we've done internally to make this a one-step process. And then, of course, we'll take some of your questions, and as you can see, as you were introduced, we will try to answer as many questions as we can as we go through this particular presentation. So, of course, with any type of session of this type, we really want to understand what you guys are doing in your infrastructure. So the first quick question that we have from a poll perspective is, where are you in your cloud journey? Are you really running your applications and stuff in the cloud? Are you maybe evaluating a cloud platform right now? No names right now, but just looking at something cloud-based. Or maybe you're considering this something as a project later this year, or you're really just starting to look or planning to look sometime next year. So if you can, click off as many of those that you feel respond to you, and then we'll continue on here in a few seconds. All right. So as expected, this kind of fits to some of the things that we've been hearing, not only from our existing customers, but new customers looking at SolidFire, is that they are really starting to run some of their applications and workloads in the cloud. They're looking to optimize that infrastructure. So when I look at what is happening in the marketplace today around the cloud, especially more focused on private and hybrid cloud, there's an obscene amount of revenue being spent on those type of solutions. So looking back at 2014 from an IDC report that really kind of broke down the cloud management software market and gave us a good forecast, you're looking at $1 billion market in 2014 and forecasting to grow close to $4.5 billion. Actually, this has been revised since we put these slides together, which actually moved this number up higher. And that's really around the adoption of customers like you guys. You're looking at the cloud to hopefully address a particular issue in your infrastructure, whether that's automation, whether that's just being more agile in your IT infrastructure, being able to respond to changing business requirements. So there's a lot of money being spent there. So if you are a partner of ours, hopefully you've been starting to capitalize on this. If you're a customer, we understand that, and hopefully you'll see some true value in this particular presentation. And one of the other things about this particular survey that we saw in this report that IDC put out is that what was really driving the adoption. And so we have another question that's going to be coming up, but what we found is that there's some key use cases that people are actually deploying cloud solutions for. And for me, this was not too out of the norm because I've been talking to a lot of customers. But what we found is that workloads and automation is really driving the adoption. So the major use cases, putting workloads out there, adding some automation to the infrastructure, followed by performance, and then change and configuration and problem management as the three top use cases that IDC said that most people are deploying clouds for. But then on the flip side, when you look at where is the money being generated from the cloud, so revenue by target markets, workloads, once again, there's 39% more revenue being generated by workloads, so people are actually doing basically AaaS as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service. They're running their workloads and providing something, whether it's IT or running their applications in the cloud. So for me, that meant that, okay, there's a huge interest. There's a lot of people that are transitioning from that legacy infrastructure more to the next generation data center. So want to get your input as far as where are you when it comes to cloud management platforms. What are you using? What are you going to? So if you are using a particular platform in this list, check it off. If you're going or evaluating a particular platform, check it off. We really just want to understand what platforms, infrastructure, or cloud that you guys are using right now. Or if you say none, that's a-okay. We understand that there's going to be some of you that may not be ready to make that leap. But hopefully after this, you will have a little more comfort in that. So we'll give you a few more seconds. All right, we're going to skip to results just to see. All right, so nothing caught off guard here. A lot of VMware, some vClouds, OpenStack, some Azure. Starting to hear a little bit more about Azure here in the last few months, so it's good to see that some of you are actually going down that route. And what I want to quickly show, this kind of mimics a particular survey result that we found on the cloud platform, and it kind of mimics what you guys have just given us, is that vSphere, vCenter is still up there as far as running their applications. And then when you look at the experimental phase and also planning to use, it's still right up there as a leader. But then if you start looking down, OpenStack is starting to catch up. And that's definitely evident from some of the surveys that we've done here at SolidFire. As you can see, 13% of the survey respondents in this particular cloud report said that they were actually running applications, whereas 19% were saying that they were experimenting. So if you think about it, transitioning from experimenting to actually use, it's really, OpenStack is starting to catch up to the mainstream of VMware, vCloud as another cloud management platform. So enough of some of the background. Let's really talk about how does SolidFire fit into the whole zero to cloud mantra that we've been talking about. And what I want to do is, of course, with an audience as diverse as this one, I want to kind of give you some input of what customers that are already in the OpenStack realm have already given us as far as their transition not only to OpenStack but using SolidFire as the base. Here we have Ultimate Software. They're a great software solution provider. If you're in the HR healthcare, you probably have heard of them. They do a particular application for managing company healthcare and also some IT services. And what Steve May says is that with SolidFire, they were able to get 4x performance inside of their OpenStack environment, and also being able to have that reliable performance and fast and easy recovery. So those are things that they were able to achieve with SolidFire in their OpenStack environment. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with SolidFire, we are a hardware provider. We give you all of the tools that you need from a hardware provider to roll out cloud infrastructures, to scale up and scale out however you need. Everything's all included. We have industry-leading hardware. We have what really separates us from any of the all-flash arrays is the industry-leading quality of service. And that's really the secret sauce, as some of the folks here at SolidFire like to call it, that really sets us apart and allow us to give you solutions or allow us to empower your data center to do great things with storage. And one of the main things that really brings us to the top, especially if you've been keeping up with the Gartner Magic Quadrant around all-flash arrays, which makes us visionary, is that not only do we give you all of the tools in the toolbox to create infrastructure using all-flash, but we allow you to build it based on your requirements. So we have multiple different models that give you not only all of the technologies and efficiencies and snapshots and IOPS at your disposal, but they fit based off your requirement. So you're not stuck at actually rolling out a specific pod or a brick with a specific IOPS and also a capacity that may not meet your environment. You can actually roll it out based off of your specific requirement, immediately have the benefits of Flash, and then grow based on your needs as the business arises and changes. And of course, we have the all-inclusive feature set. So, being focused more on OpenStack, we have that center integration, which is actually the best in the business. I've had many customers and also potential customers. We've given different demos of how our center integration works with OpenStack, allowing you to not only roll out many different I/O profiles and workloads inside of OpenStack, but really doing those simultaneously and guaranteeing the performance. So we have that real-time replication. We've got integrated backup and restore. So all of those key features that you would look for from an all-flash array. But when you start getting down into it, we allow you to, with our Cinder integration and our quality of service, really allow you to put all of those different workloads on your in your environment on that all-flash array. So of course, we have a few links at the end of this presentation to some demos that show how you can roll out not only like LAMP stack environments and also MongoDBs of different I/O profiles, but you can do them simultaneously and control the performance of those workloads and applications. So before we really jump into some of the other topics that we had in the agenda, one other quick polling question, and it's really around all-flash arrays, is that would you run all your workloads on an all-flash array if you could guarantee application performance? So think about that. If you can make sure that your databases, your applications, your test dev environment had everything they needed simultaneously, would you put that on an all-flash array if you can definitely guarantee that all of those different departments have exactly what they need when they needed it? So we'll give you a few more seconds here, and we didn't try to trick you with the questions. We just really wanted to give you a good idea, a good set of responses that kind of meet what people are coming to us and talking to us about. All right, looks like we've got a good subset here, so I'll jump over to the results. All right, kind of what I was thinking. Yes, I would consider it. Maybe after some testing. Usually that's right in line with what we're seeing. Once customers get our technology in their data center and actually see that we do everything that we promised, that they are actually astonished and say, okay, let me buy this now. Here's my checkbook. Make me the IT director of the year for my company. So a little bit of marketing talk, but we truly do deliver based off of everything that we guarantee and everything that we've talked about in this particular presentation. All right, so with that, let's talk about why we really did the whole Agile infrastructure approach. So there are tons of different technology terms, industry terms in this particular slide. And they're all buzzwords, and they're all applied to the movement of improving IT efficiency. That's really what this is all about, software-defined, private cloud, IT as a service. Whether you call it software-defined, cloud or IT as a service, the desired outcomes are all the same. So here at SolidFire, we call this vision the next generation data center. And our definition of the next generation data center is all about a collection of resources and services that are agile, scalable, automated, and predictable. These attributes define the core properties that IT must embrace to get from under the pressures that they face today. So think about what this allows you to do. If you are agile enough, you can respond to changes, whether it's rolling out a particular application, moving all of your workloads onto or condensing multiple different arrays onto one. If it's automated, you can issue one particular command and allow the entire infrastructure to change on the fly. So a lot of good attributes that we provide with our Agile infrastructure approach. Now, of course, when you talk about Agile infrastructure, this kind of mirrors into the converged infrastructure approach. And there are multiple different routes that you can go. So as I bring in Gabe into this particular conversation, Gabe, there's a lot of different routes to convergence. We took the reference architecture approach, but we put it on steroids. But when you look at hyper-converged or single vendor secret SKU, what are some of the pluses and minuses when you go those different routes?
Well, hey, Ralph. No, thanks for bringing me in. Really, what it boils down to is you've got to have a lot of different approaches or different directions that you can go. In our particular viewpoint, we look at each one of these has a benefit and a cost associated with them. If we look at hyper-converged infrastructure, that's a very much an all-in-one building block approach. But and that makes it very simple for certain customers to leverage. But it also makes it very restrictive in how you can approach scale, right? So I always have to scale my compute and storage at the same time. If we look at traditional reference architectures themselves, a lot of them, they're architecture documents. They're something that's put a bunch of pieces together to deliver, but really have not gone forward and validated the actual solutions that customers are doing. It's kind of an exercise to show integration points. If you look at single vendor, the dreaded lock-in word pops into mind for a lot of customers, and also kind of directs you into that vendor-specific vision for the direction of the data center, and it may not necessarily jive with what you as a customer are trying to achieve. And a single SKU aspect of it is just as equally restrictive. We really don't want to go as we start to bring convergence, or we start to look at this agile infrastructure approach. We really don't want to be so restricted that we have to go around any one of these direct paths. With SolidFire, we've given you a lot of different options or choices in how you want to approach this convergent infrastructure offering as a customer who's going to consume it.
Exactly. So that really dovetails into the Agile Infrastructure approach. And so let me let you go ahead and take it over and talk about what it is and what's in the stack, and hopefully answer some of the questions that a lot of the people have around Agile Infrastructure and converged infrastructures.
Sure, no problem. I mean, really what it boils down to is we took a look at what was out there in terms of the different disparate product offerings that are in the market today. And, as people who were, kind of born, and as a storage platform that's kind of born with cloud workloads in mind, we decided, hey, if we were going to build a converged infrastructure platform ourselves based on a reference architecture with best-of-breed technologies, how do we do it? And we would want it to kind of fit these kind of 5 aspects, being that's basically a pre-validated. So you can pick that up, you can take the reference architecture documentation that we provide in the Agile Infrastructure documentation, and kind of walk through that as almost like a run book, but get that kind of guaranteed, that one fuzzy aspect that's going to let you know that, hey, this has been tested and proven out and is supported by all the vendors that are involved on top of it. We also wanted to make it modular in its focus, because we realized that not all aspects of the data center scale at the same time the way you would look like in, say, a converged infrastructure solution. And we would definitely, or hyper-converged, but we would definitely want to look at it so be able to independently scale those resources. So as my compute resources grow, I can scale those independent of the storage aspects and have a more fine-tuned and granular approach to the data center in terms of how we're leveraging our resources. And this IT as a service consumption model that is starting to take precedence in the data center. We see a lot more customers that are moving off of those legacy workloads into new applications that can take advantage of this as a service type offering. And I think a lot of IT shops are starting to really look at that delivery model. For those of you who have not read The Phoenix Project, it's a great book that talks about the transition for a customer who was primarily legacy infrastructure to that of the DevOps, continuous integration, continuous delivery, or as a service type consumption model. And so what we're trying to do is tie all these different aspects together to give customers the choice or the ability to build agile cloud offerings and tap into a large vendor ecosystem that supports all of this technology. Going forward today, so what do we have? When you come and look at the SolidFire Agile Infrastructure, what are you going to get? Today, we partner with a lot of different technology companies out there today, and really what we'll come forward with is 2 distinct Agile Infrastructure offerings that are focused on OpenStack individually, right, with Red Hat. So we have one that we've built with Cisco, Red Hat, and SolidFire, and Cisco, Dell, and SolidFire. And both of those solutions are validated and up on our webpage, and we'll show some links to those at the end of the presentation. But really what it does is it gives customers a little more choice and a little more flexibility versus a traditional converged infrastructure stack where it's mostly one compute aspect that's only going to be in there. You may not want to use that technology. You may not like the switching aspect of it. You may not like the integration points. We wanted to give customers choice, and that's why as SolidFire being a flexible scale-out storage platform, we can integrate into pretty much any compute aspect of it. It's just a matter of how we validate it. And today we've validated against 2 leading technology vendors in terms of the networking and compute space, as well as one of the better OpenStack solutions that's out there today. So in terms of economics and how we did this is, like I said, going back to this modular design, right? In this particular instance, we're showing you on the left-hand side here somewhat of the Dell architecture that we've provided out. We have the scale-out storage, we have the scale-out compute, we have the networking component in there, the management network, the management systems that are all part of that. And we try to look at this from a standpoint of the cost in terms of density for compute and storage aspects, and being able to scale those resources in conjunction. So, we took a somewhat conservative approach, but we wanted to make it what we would see traditionally in the customer space. In this aspect, it's 70 vCPUs per compute node. It's about 1.5 CPU over subscription rate. We actually built this solution internally in our own lab and then validated the technologies that we layered on top of it. We're going to go into some of the use cases and workloads here, but really what it's boiling down to is getting to those operational efficiencies, being able to rapidly respond to the needs of the business and increase and scale those resources as they grow or as the business use case starts to grow along with it. So it's more of along the matter of we can start small with a relatively small aspect in terms of the storage and compute, and then scale those resources out independently. And SolidFire is one of the one storage platforms out there today that can actually do scale in a linear fashion. If I need that much more performance or I need that much more storage capacity, each one of those is a single one new building block approach that's going to scale out, and you can do that in tandem with the compute resources. And like I say, get back to that ability to fine tune those different aspects. At the end of the day, these are commodity resources that we're leveraging, and as a customer, I think it's important to understand that you have a lot of choices as you start to scale these solutions out. You could go with rack mounts, you could go with blades. Those portions of it are interchangeable.
So with that, we do have one more. I lied. I thought this was a lot. We had one before. My apologies. We have one more about what's reasons that drove or driving you towards your cloud platform adoption. Gabe just talked about some of the efficiencies, the agilities, being able to grow small, being able to respond to business needs. What are some of the things that had driven you to adopt it or are driving you right now to look at this type of cloud platform technology? So we'll give you a few more seconds here. All right, you guys definitely had some more input on this one. I like that. All right. Wow, yes. So it's right in line. So Gabe, you did a good job of touching on some of the things here. I mean, respond quicker to business needs, provide self-service to users. These are all good things. And I think this really jumps directly into some of the use cases, the popular use cases that we really address here with Agile Infrastructure, don't you think?
Oh, most certainly. I mean, it really, what it boils down to is the whole concept of the cloud is how to deliver, what we consider that Amazon in-house, right? I mean, there's a reason so much of IT, shadow IT started to grow inside many data centers or many organizations is because, us as IT professionals, we didn't have the resources, we didn't have the flexibility or the scalability to meet those needs immediately, right? And so now what we're doing and what we see with a lot of OpenStack customers that are starting to move that route is they want to be able to create that IT as a service offering to their internal customers and keep more control over the IT and more control over the compute and data information that sits within inside the data center, within inside their own businesses without having it leak out. So if I can be just as agile and just as flexible as Amazon internally, then that's a benefit, that's a win. We make IT look like a hero, to all of the developers that we work with inside our organizations. So moving forward, let's talk a little bit about the use cases. In a lot of respects, use cases can be all over the map. We touched on MongoDB and LampStack, and that tends to be one of the aspects of this that is, we want to look at these large-scale web applications that are being deployed across the board. That can start as something as simple as a couple virtual machines that are working in a test dev environment, and that can scale out to hundreds and thousands. We want to touch base on that software development lifecycle and how we have crafted workloads to associate with that, as well as the databases solutions that are on, coming aboard. So MongoDB that's out there today, things like React, a lot of these newer database solutions that are coming into play and kind of eclipsing some of the legacy applications because of their limited scalability. Everything that we're trying to touch base on here when it comes to the use cases are the type of workloads that fit that mold of what we would consider the next generation data center. They're looking for distributed resource management, shared nothing architectures and whatnot, and we've built our persistent block storage aspects around that particular model. So we've looked at the things that a lot of organizations will talk about, possibly like Facebook or Twitter or those types of platforms as something to emulate. We do emulate some of those technologies to a certain extent in terms of how we manage scalability and the distributed architecture. But those are the type of workloads that we're looking at in mind, realizing that most organizations are not going to be providing a web service to 300 million people on the planet, but they want the efficiencies of the ability to do so. So peace of mind, it's like I spent about 15 years as an end user myself in the IT world as a storage virtualization architect, and I wanted to be able to go to my boss and say, hey, you know what, this has been completely vetted out by the vendors that are all involved. So we have vendor approved and vendor certified solutions for Cisco as well as for VMware in certain aspects. You can go out to, in terms of the Cisco Agile Infrastructure solution, you can go onto the Cisco page, the solution's up there, all the documents are up there, you can download those. And what we really try to do is, like I said, reduce risk and reduce that kind of aspect that makes us kind of question, why are we going to leverage a company or leverage a service that's only been around for a couple of years? The truth of the matter is we spend a lot of time and effort into making these technologies or these agile infrastructure offerings as bulletproof as possible, and that's how come we've chosen to get these kind of certifications and approvals from the different vendors that we work with in terms of the agile infrastructure offerings that we have today. In terms of a competitive aspect or a competitive comparison, this is not to call any one particular group out, but what we've tried to do is kind of try to shape what the converged infrastructure or the competitive landscape looks like today. There's a lot of different aspects in terms of what a reference design looks like. Most storage companies and most storage players out there on the market today are going to approach this in a similar type of design. It's a compute, it's storage, and it's some kind of stack software and networking on top of it. We do this as simply a means to kind of show you what the competitive landscape looks like and what the kind of entry points look like as well. So, in terms of the SolidFire solution, we're looking at a 27U footprint to start with in terms of what we consider a cloud-ready solution. Also,
and Gabe, and the one thing here I wanted to point out is that for us from a reference design, we do cover two different cloud platforms, where some of these others have some limitations in the OpenStack realm. So I think that's also something good that kind of sets us apart, is that you can achieve a reference design that actually is meaningful, but gives you everything that you need in an OpenStack, and also if you're in a VMware type environment, don't you think?
Oh, most certainly. I think we would definitely want to provide the type of solutions that are flexible and give customers choice. We're not saying that you have to use Red Hat OpenStack. In fact, we've done a lot of work around different disparate distributions, as well as just the bare core DevStack type solutions that are out there in the OpenStack realm. But we also give you the option, right? So some solutions are going to be, one type of hypervisor only. They're not going to give you that flexibility. We believe that, in terms of building a solution and proving it out with proof points, with workload validation and whatnot, that we have the ability to, be a lot more diverse and much more realistic. You may want to use one type of platform for your dev test area and another completely different solution for QA or for production. In doing so, what you're basically doing is providing for that, the diversity and the ability to migrate from one platform to another. Perhaps you're looking at something that's more open, so you could be going a pure OpenStack and KVM route, or perhaps you like the stability of the VMware hypervisor set and you want to integrate into something like VMware integrated OpenStack. Those types of technologies are out there today, and so we want to make sure that we address those in terms of giving you the greatest amount of choice as an end user. So how do you go from a cloud, zero to OpenStack cloud in about 90 minutes? And we'll touch base on some of this right now. And what we did is basically we kind of have this kind of approach is, follow, deploy, repeat, right? It's choose your platform, choose your storage configuration, grab the scripts that we've put up on GitHub, and then follow our reference architecture design, and then deploy it. Any customer who, any group, we believe that any customer, most people could actually take the documentation that we provided from our logical configuration guides to the deployment guides and our reference architecture design scoping and follow those to their own extent and actually get cloud up and running. We've done the testing ourselves internally. This 90-minute aspect comes from our ability to go ahead and provision and get a cloud up and running, leveraging OpenStack technologies. from Red Hat and have workloads up and running in about 90 minutes. We repeated it over and over again. We demonstrated it on the floor at trade shows and whatnot. So, let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. Oh, wrong slide. Let me share out a screen here real quick. And what you should be able to see here is the GitHub page that I have for our OpenStack integrations, right? So you can go up to GitHub and look at it's basically github.com, SolidFire, SolidFire AI. And this is where we have all of the actual repositories for the different aspects from Cinder patches to OpenStack configuration scripts to provisioning templates. Everything that we've done in terms of the solutions that we've provided around the SolidFire AI integrations into OpenStack are sitting up there, as well as you can go to our own web page and see that we have the different aspects in terms of which type of Agile infrastructure offering you want to have. Today we've been focused on Red Hat OpenStack, but we also have solutions for VMware as well that we've built in the past. So if you wanted to go down these different paths, you can choose from what's up there on the page right now today. Those Agile infrastructures, like in this particular case for OpenStack, the information's all up there in terms of the documentations that you want to download and get ready. It's basically choose, hey, do you want to do it on Cisco? Do you want to do it on Dell? And that's kind of like the workflow in terms of how you want to access this. If we actually look at what looks like, the solutions are actually fairly robust and fairly interesting. I would just understand that go up there, take a look at some of the documentation. The information is all available to you as a customer. So.
And also the key thing as you're switching back over is that some of those operational efficiencies were based off of the smallest footprint that we utilized. So of course your mileage may vary, meaning you're probably going to get more. So it's like a hybrid where you get more bang for your buck by mixing technology. So don't really harp on the number of virtual machines. But we really focused on trying to roll out the most bang for our buck based off the smallest footprint that you can use. So of course, a lot of our customers that have used this as a building block are getting way more efficiencies, way more virtual machines and workloads being able to run on an Agile infrastructure.
Sure. So, why does Agile infrastructure win? I mean, why do we see customers looking to move towards it? And I've seen this firsthand with customers who have taken a look at our reference architecture documentation, our Agile infrastructure documentation, and immediately ran out and said, hey, we want to build this. Let's talk to a partner. Let's talk to a SolidFire Cloud Builder team, and let's get this up and running. And I believe it really does because it's because we have taken, best-of-breed solutions that are on the marketplace today. Validated, proof points come out. If you look at Dell and Cisco, both been doing very well in the compute and networking infrastructure spaces for a number of years. They are tested, they're battle-proven. Lots of clouds and lots of customers leverage those technologies today. We have approached this from the truly scale-out aspect of it. So we start at 4-node SolidFire cluster. We scale to 100. 3.8 petabytes of all-flash storage that can offer millions of IOPS, and through quality of service we can really lock down and run those disparate workloads on the cloud that a lot of other storage platforms would have trouble with, primarily because without the ability to segment off and wall off your workloads, it's kind of like a free-for-all in terms of the storage aspects. We're trying to provide a lot of opportunity and a lot of flexibility, and so we don't, not to say that lock-in is the worst thing in the world, but it's if you want to flip from one platform to another, we want to make sure that we've validated solutions that allow you to do so and give you as a customer more choice and more flexibility. And then, of course, we're always accelerating time to value, time to delivery, and that's where we've built in this very rich set of APIs and integration points with all of the common management and automation frameworks from Puppet, Chef, Ansible, Salt, etc., PowerShell. We have all of those different technologies. We demonstrate them on a daily basis in front of our customers. And touching back right on it, it's the guaranteed performance. I've given you a platform. I've given you a specific amount of performance and a specific amount of capacity, and it's up to you to carve that up and leverage it as you want. So summarizing, or kind of like giving you kind of like the end space here as we kind of come up against the end of the presentation, we do see that OpenStack is actually becoming real. I've been to the last couple of OpenStack summits. This last one here up in Vancouver was a great showcase of a lot of actual customers that are coming there and starting to deploy clouds and starting to deploy OpenStack in the enterprise. It's not just a science project anymore. SolidFire itself, if you look at the DNA and the history of those employed and those who work within the company, we all come from cloud backgrounds. We all have spent a lot of time working in this particular arena, and we've designed a platform that really kind of focuses on what it would require to build a cloud and leverage an all-flash storage platform. And the result is the SolidFire storage platform itself. Agile infrastructure, that is our, we're trying to take that standard converged infrastructure platform and punch it up a few notches, put it on steroids, get it out there, and actually validate the solutions that you as customers would be looking to deploy. And that's why it's more than just a document that shows you how the parts go together. It is all about workload validation, and we prove that out with every Agile infrastructure solution we provide to the customer. So more information, obviously go to solidfire.com/AI. That's where you can grab all of the Agile infrastructure documentation. For the OpenStack reference architecture with Cisco, there's a bit.ly address on there. The AI page will still have all of the information as well. So, Ralph, do you have any further questions here?
Actually, we don't have any questions that you haven't answered. Actually, sorry, just one did pop in here about there was no mention of any type of SKU for this type of solution. So how would a customer go through and really build this if they wanted to maybe roll out OpenStack using SolidFire as storage?
Right. So inside the Agile infrastructure documentation, we actually lay out the different products that are inside that Agile infrastructure that we validated against. And obviously, reach out to your local technology partners. There are a lot of different SolidFire partners that are technology rated who can deliver a solution like this. It's a matter of, I think, getting in touch with your local resources in your area. SolidFire representatives would definitely be able to help you get in line with the right kind of partner who can kind of help deliver or put this platform together. Or if you want to build it yourself, the documentation and compute aspects, networking, and the software are all listed inside the Agile infrastructure documentation itself. But this is not like this is not something that's like, hey, I would love it and provide you with a turnkey, here's a button, and buy the whole thing, show up. But it's like, it's just the nature of the system is that we didn't want to create an actual product itself. We wanted to give a blueprint that allowed the customer to, have a little more flexibility and not be as rigid as some of the other solutions on the marketplace.
Right, and actually, if you do follow SolidFire, I think we just announced that we do have some partners that are Agile Infrastructure certified. So as Gabe said, definitely connect with your SolidFire account manager. They will work with or find the resource in your area that is aware and can put together an Agile infrastructure configuration based off your tailored needs. So that's the other key thing, is that we don't put out pods or bricks or anything like that. Everything is tailored directly to you. So therefore, you're going to get that guaranteed experience, and you're going to get the satisfaction and some amazing technology that you didn't know you really needed in your infrastructure. So I think that was the major question that we didn't ask, or that we didn't really answer. Everything else has pretty much been answered. And so, as we did promise that we were going to give out 2, Amazon gift cards. So let me get the bowl here and pick them out here. All right, thank you, Vanna White. You can't see this, but Vanna White is here giving us a nickname. So the first one is Jeffrey Gebhardt. Hopefully I did not butcher that last name. I'm horrible with names. All right, that's the first one. All right, Vanna, can I have another name, please? All right, this one I'm going to definitely butcher. It's Mikhail Golstovitz. Please, I apologize. I am horrible with names, but we will be sending out a follow-up e-card to your email, so please look out for that. Make sure you check your spam folder. It'll be coming from SolidFire, so hopefully you have not put us on the blacklist. If you have, we do not want your money now because we don't like you. Just kidding. So be on the lookout for those e-cards from us. You'll get those within the next 24 hours. We really appreciate you guys attending this webinar on Agile Infrastructure, really introducing it to you, talking about how all-flash technology with guaranteed performance and QoS can really be used to to tap into OpenStack and allow you to really expand on your cloud platform journey and give you some great outcomes. So with that, go ahead, Gabe. Do you have anything to add?
Nope, just going to say thank you, everyone, for listening. You know, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us on Twitter or via the website. You can go read our blog posts and whatnot. A lot of discussion around Agile infrastructure will be forthcoming on the website here soon. So please take a notice or stop by, take a look at the SolidFire blog.
Exactly, and slides will be sent out. A copy of these slides will be sent out here shortly. So if you missed anything or want to share this with anybody on your team, you'll have those at your disposal. So once again, thank you for the time. I appreciate it, and hopefully you've learned a great deal. And keep an ear out for more on Agile infrastructure and different technologies here at SolidFire. With that, have a great one.